All right, we're gonna start when I when I trim this later. I'm gonna start the stream right now because it's all over the place. There's nothing to do with hip hop. Um, but the fact of the matter is, we're here to talk about all the wonderful things that happen in hip hop music and culture that you don't normally hear about elsewhere. We're actually gonna talk about something tonight to start off. We call this hip hop news that isn't about dumb ish. And normally I talk about news that you don't find out uh, elsewhere. But we will talk about something tonight that is kind of being talked about by a lot of folks. You'll see it buzzing in your, hip hop news feeds. If you're outside of hip hop, you might not see this, but you might. It's actually something that may have a little crossover appeal for two reasons. It has to do with Lupe Fiasco. So if you've been paying attention to Lupe Fiasco news recently, there's one thing that made a lot of news, and then one thing that made lesser news, but I think is actually more important to talk about this year. So tonight, rather, and this year in some ways. So we'll talk about that. I want to just point out real quick that you will get many news stories about the innovative and inspiring and unexpected ways that hip hop music and culture can help uplift humanity by subscribing to the newsletter that you see here on the screen, mannyfaces.substack.com. It's a great newsletter, and matter of fact, I'll switch to the screen here, and you'll see we have I put out one every 2 weeks or so. I like how I did like was hip hop good this year, part 1, the music, and then never did a part 2. So where's the part 2, Manny? We talked about it a little bit on this show, so I apologize for that. But there'll be a new newsletter this week, and what they tend to be filled with are literally that links to stories that talk about hip hop being used in different ways outside of entertainment. So all the hip hop education stories, or hip hop being used in health settings, people doing really great things with hip hop, youth organizations, or people, or places, or things, or municipalities, or some kind of nonprofit organization. We have a cool story tonight that talks about a young person getting a scholarship from a hip hop based organization in a field that you might not normally associate hip hop with. And that's kind of what we talk about here, all the different ways that hip hop is making improvements to society in ways you might not expect. Some of us know this stuff because we're kind of inside baseball. We operate in this world. The point is to spread this word to remind us that it happens. And to inspire others who may not be from our world to understand that this is something that you can, if you want to, bring into your world, and if you want to do it authentically. So if you're a teacher and you don't understand how hip hop can actually help students in their engagement or their academic success or their interest levels, you can talk to the people that are in this circle, in this community we're building here, and our friends, our friend communities that are connected, and learn how you can apply that to your teaching career, or your health and wellness affiliated career, or your business, or your technology, science and technology, huge area that we talk about. Hip hop can make great strides if the tech industry, which is welcome folks from a hip hop mindset. I do entire keynote talks about this. So it's that kind of thing. If you're not familiar with what we do, that's what we do. And we do like to talk about, we have guests. Last few shows, I haven't had guests. I've been kind of giving everyone a break for the holidays. No one wants to sit in front of a camera and do a Zoom call in the middle of, the holidays. So I'll be having guests, come back to the show. If you are a self-ascribed person who uses hip hop music and culture in some inventive, innovative, and creative way, and you'd like to be on the show, invite yourself. Just reach out to me and be like, hey, Manny, you know me, you know what I do, or you don't know me, you don't know what I do. I'd love to talk to you about the work that I do. Please invite yourself. Ms. Parker's in the building. You're overdue. We got to talk about what you do. You may know someone. You may know someone in the field or someone who does something. That's cool. So you can always feel free to invite, reach out to me and give your suggestions on who should be on the show. I have a long list of people that I have yet to get to. I'm overdue for a lot of people, but I'm always willing to hear and learn from more. And then the other call to action that I always ask, besides just signing up for the free newsletter on the bottom here, is that if you know someone who needs to know this information, who needs to hear this stuff, it doesn't have to be a hip hop head. It could be a hip hop head who might be jaded and feel that the culture that they once loved doesn't have, anything to offer the world anymore. They may feel that, they look at the music and the entertainment is about, and it's not their thing. And they're like, it used to be this, it used to be that. What happened to my hip hop? And then you're like, no, no, no. There's so many good things. Come listen to Manny. He'll tell you about the people doing all the things. So your other call to action is someone who you might feel has is jaded to what hip hop is, an old hip hop fan, maybe someone who feels like, it's not going in the direction I like it. Someone who you would ask me like, what do you like about hip hop today? And they'd be like, nothing. No, there's plenty to like. Send them my way, send them our way, come into the ecosystem. And then of course, if you have people who are completely removed from hip hop, but you're sort of a middle person, you got one foot in this community, but you got one foot in a community that isn't that familiar with hip hop culture. And you learn some things from this show or, the work we do or the people we talk to, invite them here. Just send them the link. Right now, obviously give a thumbs up and share. So make sure you subscribe so you know when we go live. That's what we can do. That should be a good New Year's resolution to help bring people to this ecosystem so that they can enjoy the conversations that we have. Peace and love again to, what up, Jimmy? Jimmy in the building. Shouts to New Orleans. Shouts to you, sir. Shouts to our good friends. We have a few friends in New Orleans. And, obviously, with everything went down, I love New Orleans. I often say, you heard me say this in my interview with Rainey Antoine, who's a professor of hip hop at Loyola. I'm from New York, so every city sucks compared to like every city. All y'all cities suck. Like it's cool, whatever. But like, come on, it's New York. And I moved to Atlanta. And I did the thing that New Yorkers do when I moved to Atlanta. And Atlanta's, got a vibe. It's cool. I can mess with it. It's good. And I don't mean to disparage your cities. All your cities are fine. They're just not New York. But New Orleans was, I know it's like, it's like touristy and whatever and pure like touristy chaos. It's fun. I love New Orleans. It's such a vibe. It's such good people. It's such a mix of people that are there visiting on any given day. Bourbon Street is bananas. Frenchman is dope. The music is dope. The food is incredible. I had such a good time in New Orleans, and it really broke my heart to see what happened on New Year's in New Orleans. And so definitely give mad love to all the folks in New Orleans recovering from that tragic situation. Unfortunately, every time I come on the show every week, like there's some city to shout out where some horrible thing happened. But anyway, yeah, man. Oh, Parker, you know it. The food. I said you can't find a bad place to eat in New Orleans. I don't care if you just stumble into a place, if it's just a random place, if it's a 5-star place, if it's a tourist trap. There's no bad food. Like I think they'll excommunicate you from the city. I think you actually get kicked out. I think there's like a committee. You know how like they do the ABC, like the ratings in the restaurants, like for cleanliness. I think if you get a B for food deliciousness in New Orleans, they actually close you down and they'll just kick you out. And that's why you don't see any. It's all because everyone's gone. Anyone who doesn't have good food has been kicked out. So I believe that's 100% the truth. Shouts to my good friend Natalie Crew in the building. Salute to you, sis. Good to see you. So anyway, everything about New Orleans is great. I love it. And shouts to everyone there. I know that city will, obviously bounce back and will be, fine, but I've been there. I haven't been to a lot of places in the world, and I had a great time there with my family. I celebrated my a milestone birthday by going to New Orleans for the first time, and I loved it. So that all being said, let's get into it. This is something that I like to call hip-hop news that isn't about dumb shit. So let's get started. Natalie, it's interesting you're here. I don't want to, this is a rabbit hole story, so I'm going to give people the 2 cents and, the top level, and then they can follow down the rabbit hole if it interests them. But it's funny because it's just been developing over the last day or so. And I was wondering like what folks like you and, Kane, our friend Kane Mayfield would think, because it has to do with sort of that, AI technology, that next level of what's happening in society and technology. It has to do with Lupe Fiasco and a couple of interesting pieces of news with him. Oh, beignets. Oh my God. I can't keep looking at the chat. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. So of the many stories that I cover and collect and curate, this is one that made a lot of noise, obviously, just because of, of what it is. And so I'll give you the first part first, and we'll go to this screen. So Lupe Fiasco, it was announced just after New Year's that he will serve as rap professor at Johns Hopkins University's Peabody Institute. And why can't this go away? Why is this here? Go away. I don't care. Why is the Golden Globes here? Whatever. So this is interesting. We often talk about the intersection of hip hop and education here, hip hop and higher education, the good, bad, and ugly of that intersection, that juxtaposition, that coming together. It happens very often in great ways. I work with a number of people in hip hop academia. We've had them on this show. We talk about it a lot. We read the books, we talk to the professors, we talk to the people, we talk to the folks at Howard who have done a hip hop studies minor. The intersections of hip hop and academia, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So when it works well, it works great. There's some questionable behaviors that we want to make sure we watchdog on and make sure aren't happening, and we want to make sure that that the culture isn't exploited for ivory towers to fill seats, but not really contribute to the culture from whence they take, right? So there's a lot of things happening with that. That being said, Lupe Fiasco to serve as rap professor at Johns Hopkins University's Peabody Institute. If you haven't been following hip hop and academia, and if you haven't been following Lupe Fiasco, this might seem like some big news. Like, oh wow, this is big, this is huge, and it is. But it's not unexpected. Lupe Fiasco, in particular, one of the there's been a few, but one of the few commercially known, well-known, successful artists who have gone on to take his craft and incorporate it or interact with academia on some level. He was a hip hop fellow. If you don't know, Harvard University has a hip hop fellowship program named after Nasir Jones Hip Hop Fellowship Program at the Hutchins Center for African American and African Research. It's a center at Harvard. It's run by Dr. Gates. It has a fellowship under it that's a hip hop dedicated fellowship, and he served there as well. He was at Yale doing some work, and he had been at MIT as a visiting artist, doing some work with them in their with their linguistics and teaching rap and doing classes and doing lectures and colloquiums. I forget how you say the word. So anyway, so this isn't new for Lupe. He's been doing this for quite some time. Johns Hopkins University, at the same time, the Peabody Institute, we reported on this a couple weeks ago. Wendell Patrick over there has set up a Bachelor of Music program at the Peabody Institute. The Peabody Conservatory, by the way, is a very well-renowned musical conservatory out of the Johns Hopkins University system, and it's been around for a while. It's like super well-known. It's great and acclaimed and all of the things. So yay to all of this. So Lupe gets tapped to bring his, as a professor of rap over to the Peabody Institute, Peabody Observatory. This is good. If you heard my interview, I just mentioned a few minutes ago, if you heard my interview a few episodes before the end of the new year with Rainey Antoine, Professor Rainey Antoine Jr. of Loyola University in New Orleans, he teaches at their bachelor program. Peabody Institute made noise by saying that they're the first, degree program in hip hop. It's not entirely true. It's the first Bachelor of Music program for hip hop. Loyola has had the Bachelor of Science program in hip hop music, performance and recording and blah, blah, blah. So they've had a similar program for a little while as well. The reason why I mentioned that is because Rainey Antoine used to be a student at Loyola University and explained during our interview how when he was learning to do music, these are performance and recording. And so think of them as music schools, not the hip hop studies that we talk about often when we talk about like what they do at Howard. Like the minor at Howard is a hip hop studies minor. And so you're looking at things like more from a cultural standpoint, a sociological standpoint, an anthropological standpoint. This is much more like music creation, music, music making and music, right? And what Rainey says about going into Loyola, which had a fabulous program, and they had music program, and they'd been around for a long time, and they were similarly acclaimed, and you could learn about the music business, you could learn about production, you could learn about engineering and mastering and all the things. But as an R&B / hip hop artist, he wasn't finding that there were actually faculty that were teaching sort of modern song making, modern music making. They didn't have the chops to make, to really be like in tune with modern ways of making music, which incorporates hip hop and R&B. He tells a great story about saying, I wanted to learn how to make my 808 drums like really slap. Like I really wanted to make them, hit. And I needed to know, like, engineering wise from a, digital production standpoint, how that happens. And he would have professors saying, just use a bass guitar. Or he wanted to use, how do I fine tune my auto tune to get that effect that I'm looking for that mirrors like some, modern stuff. And you could have your, opinion on whether auto tune, whatever. But they said, well, you shouldn't use auto tune if the singer singer you're working with needs auto tune, then they can't sing. And they wouldn't give them like that knowledge. And for better or for worse, that knowledge is what's being used in modern day music making. So I say all that to say, if you have a modern day music making academic space, conservatory, college, trade school, wherever you learn music, you must incorporate hip hop from a, authentic place. It's simple. I don't care whether you think hip hop should be in the academy or hip hop should be into, you must do it. If you have classical, if you have jazz, if you could take a polka class and you can't take a hip hop class, then you're doing damage to the humanities that is music, right? Because that is what music is today. So, that being said, it has to be there. I talked to the late great Jarrett Scheel from the Berklee College of Music some years ago. Again, go in the archives. Great interview, and Jarrett extolled these same ideas. You have to have it. It's ridiculous to not consider music. It's funny also because it's so late in the game, like that we're talking about Loyola and Peabody as being like the first couple. Like that means there's only a couple. So it's still hard. It's still hard to understand that there are so many organizations and institutions that don't consider hip hop when you consider music making, even though it's by far the most influential and, practiced music on the planet. Anyway, so Andrew Wang says now AI can do all of that. Ha. Well, we're going to talk about that. So again, and that's going to be like part 3 of this. So Lupe Fiasco, rap professor at Johns Hopkins. So great. That's cool. No problem with that. Lupe is pretty qualified. He's a deep lyricist. He studies the art of rap, sort of like the science of rap. And it's a great thing to learn, even if you don't go to college to become a rapper. Maybe you're just working in music production and you get a job as a producer, or you get a job as an engineer, or you get a job as a, all these different things you could do in the music business besides like being the rapper and being the person on stage. It helps to know the craft of rap. And I think for the craft of rap, it's good to look at rap in these ways and have someone like Lupe who's going to kind of break it. So I think that Lupe's work as a professor of rap in this regard has been good. Cool. Yay. Part 1. Part 2 is a recent post that came up on his Instagram page, basically the day after or at the top of the year. I'm not going to get into it too much because part 3 is where we really want to dig in. But part 2 says that he made this thing called Rhyme and Shop, a multimodal, multimedia, I'm reading off of his Instagram page, creative musical sandbox. Rhyme and Shop's DCS, or Data Compression Services, programs small batch physical musical releases or flavors available only to holders of Rhyme and Shop's DCS USB card or bowls. New Rhyme and flavors go into the bowls. The first set of Rhyme and Shop DCS V1 bowls were released during the Samurai Tour. By the way, dropped a great album last year called Samurai. During the tour, he apparently gave out some USB sticks, and that was, like precious. And what you're able to do is you're able to basically be fed new information, new data, new music exclusively through this kind of, think of it as a fob, right? Think of it as a direct way of getting things that you can only get through this physical thing that you have. That's pretty cool. That's a cool way of using technology to say, hey, listen, I'm giving out these things, these bowls that you need to have physically in your hand. And if you have it, you plug in your computer, you'll be able to get this new release, and hopefully not a virus to your computer, because that'd be a terrible thing. It'd be a big surprise. It'd be like, Lupe, I thought I was getting music, and he'd be like, ha ha ha, I own your computer, and now give me 20 Bitcoin or your mother dies. That'd be terrible, and I don't condone anyone who does that. However, it's probably not that. It's probably Lupe saying, hey, I'm going to give you some new music, but you have to have my little special thing to be able to get it. Cool, yay, makes sense. I like it. And he says new bowls, new things will be released, and you're going to get that. So again, on this show, we like to talk about innovative uses of hip hop. This is pretty innovative. This is cool. This is some digital forward thinking stuff. I like it. I'm sure his fans like it. Cool. Y'all with me so far? You still with me? All right. I love it. Yes. Okay, cool. Hip hop and collegiate academia is spreading. Absolutely. I'm happy to see it with some reservations. We're going to talk about some reservations in a second. And we do talk about reservations. We often push back against it. It's not perfect. My buddy did this with new remixes with USB drives. Yeah, I think that if you're doing it from a way of kind of connecting to people and giving them up, Kane Mayfield, obviously I'm long over to have him on the show. Nat, if you're still here, Kane, put out an album. You get the vinyl, you open the album cover, there's a QR code, you scan the QR code, and it'll point you somewhere different every couple of weeks. You'll get new releases, like stuff like that, where it's changing and it's dynamic. Even what Kanye did with Life of Pablo, putting the album up on the streaming platforms sort of before it was finished, or maybe when it was finished, but then he was like, but I'm going to change it. And so you may hear a new version of the song that I uploaded to the stream. So in other words, it was dynamic, and you may go another time to listen to the song and it's going to be different from when you first heard it. Like that's clever stuff to me. That's clever use of technology. And that's where technology, works. And that's where I think artists, especially DIY artists or, just artists in general, instead of complaining about, streams on Spotify, and we talked about how Spotify has been, stealing money from artists and doing all these weird things with algorithms and AI. Okay, that's something you have to deal with. At the same time, don't just block technology. There's things you could be doing that are innovative and cool. And so having a physical thing, and you have to have this physical thing, it creates a sense of rarity, and it's like a collector's item, and it's like Pokemon cards, and that's what Lupe is doing with this thing. So, okay, we're good so far. Part three. Oh, let me just say real quick. Nat Cruz said, we're talking about Kane. His upcoming release will allow you to select which tracks you want, and there are different eats and artists that generate. I get what you're saying. You may not have finished your sentence, but yes. So that's great. Imagine like you have, Kane's been around for a long time. Known Kane for a long, long time as well. He's been doing this work for a minute. He's an innovator, and y'all should follow him. And if any of this sounds interesting to you, beats. Oh, beats. Okay, that's better than eats. Yeah, that makes more sense. Thank you. Okay, which tracks you want, and there are different beats and artists that get generated. Cool. So it's like a living mixtape. It's like choose your own adventure. It's like choose your own adventure for music. I love it. I see that. She said the food talk is good. Yeah, New Orleans is still on your mind. Yo, we should do a retreat. We should do a Hip-Hop Could Save America retreat, and it should be in New Orleans. It has to be in New Orleans. We have to make it work. So, okay. So Kane Mayfield doing that type work. Lupe doing that type work. That's what I want artists to like listen to our show and get like inspiration, right? Copy the idea, do the same damn thing. It's really cool. I'd be really proud if I had a Lupe Fiasco USB and only 3,000 of them exist and blah, 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 right? Cool. So bang. But here's where he got a little bit of hot broth, okay? Now I'm gonna make food puns all night. All right, cool. Oh, hey, what up? Charlotte's in the house. Just got here, but loving the idea of going back to owning something and not borrowing it. Okay, that's brilliant. Okay, right. So, all right, but here's where Lupe got into a little bit of hot broth. I'm reading because it's small on the screen, but let me switch. Let me just show y'all how funky I get. Oh, there we go. All right. So what it says now, it says, imagine, he goes, and now, endless loop, L-U-P. This is from Lupe Fiasco's Instagram page. Imagine if there was a 24-hour, fully AI-powered radio station trained on all the intricacies of my rapping abilities and was carefully refined to produce the highest quality possible Lupe Fiasco songs. One more time. Imagine there was a 24-hour, fully AI-powered radio station trained on all the intricacies of my rapping abilities and was carefully refined to produce the highest quality possible Lupe Fiasco songs. Now imagine it only played a generated song once and never again, endlessly. Now imagine that radio station was only available for certain periods of time and only in certain locations, and that you needed an actual FM radio to hear the songs. Young people, at FM radio is actually when you turn on the radio in the car and it's not Bluetooth and you're not aux cable, it's actually the little 97.2 or whatever. Okay. Imagine I put a team together at MIT and imagine we actually built it. Endless L-U-P, endless loop, coming soon. So, according to Lupe Fiasco's page, he's been working with folks at MIT as part of his, what do you call it? It's a visiting residency. It's an artist residency, but on the smarts tip because it's MIT. So he's been teaching and doing lectures and such. And he's saying that I'm going to have a radio station. I love this idea, like pirate radio, right? Like you have to be in a certain area and listen to an FM radio signal and you get a Lupe Fiasco station just on endless repeat. But it's not Lupe Fiasco. It's AI Lupe that's been trained off of Lupe, a language learning model, an LLM, apparently like ChatGPT, trained to rap, to create rap songs like Lupe, sanctioned by Lupe. And as he then further, and we'll talk about, he further clarified, Andrew mentions Suno, yes, with music that's also artificially generated and created. So entire songs made from the Lupe verse, like from the Lupe ether, from the Lupe matrix, that aren't songs. They're just creations of what AI Lupe and AI Lupe's producers would have made in an AI Lupe song, and it would play once over Lupe radio and never to be like played again endlessly until the end of time. So Natalie Cruz says basically building his own language model. Yes. And anyone from I'm, y'all know, guys, I'm stupid. I know things and I say things and I repeat things. So I only know what I know. But we can all make our own language models. Like we can, if I wanted to make my own Chat GPT, I could make a Manny GPT. I use Claude, and I've trained Claude on some of my writing so that Claude kind of knows who I am. So when I say, hey, Claude, I have an idea about a thing. How does this outline work? Does it, can I tweak it in any way that makes more sense chronologically, whatever the hell I'm asking Claude? And Claude will be like, oh, I know who you are. And so, yes, we can all do that to some degree. But this is a little bit of a step farther. And some people did have some qualms about it. I'll read you, I'll get you to one, but Jim says, that's weird to me as someone who does everything raw and live. It is weird for an actual artist out there supporting AI, let alone to do him. Yeah, what on earth? So it's Lupe AI Fiasco, right? So, okay, so we're all feeling, and I'm not trying to lead it, I'm just reporting it to you and saying that some people had a problem with that, and y'all are basically echoing what a bunch of people, may have had an issue with it. I'm not I mean, as you know, I'm sort of a YouTuber now just because I'm doing this, but I'm not like one of those YouTubers. You know what I mean? Not yet. By the way, thumbs up, like, and subscribe, baby, so we can be one of those. So we can get some of this monetization happening, so we can, spread love the Manny way, and get more people tuned in and turned up with us. Oh God, thank God I'm not watching the Knicks game. Turn it off, Andrew. Turn it off now. I'm warning you. So 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 in the YouTube verse though, and this is where the rabbit hole goes. Later on, tomorrow, whenever you want, if you want to learn more about some of the intricacies of this developing story, there's three things I want you to listen to. One of them is a YouTube video by someone who's known as Absolutely, and she put out a rebuttal to this when she found out she's a YouTuber and speaks about issues of music and culture and blackness and all kinds of things. And I'm going to play a clip so we know what we're talking about. And she put out a response which echoes some of your concerns, and I'll play a little bit of it. Then there was a response to the response by Lupe Fiasco himself. He went on an Instagram Live for a couple of hours and kind of addressed some of her concerns. Then, because it was an Instagram Live and not everyone got it, there's a brother named Curtis King who does a YouTube channel called Curtis King TV. Very often talks about music and DIY work and and hip hop culture and all the things. Good channel, good guy. Seems to be well on top of it. Pretty smart. I followed him and watched his work. Who then dissects Lupe's response. So there's like 3 hours more that you can go into of all of this stuff. But I'm just giving you the lay of the land because you might not have heard about it. And also, so that you don't get lost in the sauce, here are some people that are talking about it that I think collectively, because I did this today, I didn't have enough time because I had to do a show, that I got a pretty good grasp of exactly what all the issues are at hand. Hernandez, don't get crazy now, just because, it's not Go Spurs. It's still Knicks all day. Cut it out. Here's the clip from Absolutely's YouTube channel where she responded to this. Let's just listen and watch together real quick. I'm not going to play too long. It's an 11-minute response, but she brings up some interesting points. And also, it, strangely, immediately sounds like AI herself. And then you see that it's a real person and it's not AI. Just the voice. It's nice. It's comforting, but it sounded like it was a robot. And I'm like, is this a real person? And it is a real person. But anyway, that's beside the point. Let's go.
Hip-hop, a genre born from the survival and cultures of Black people, revolutionized music by giving Black voices a platform to tell their stories and our collective history. It's more than a sound. It's a culture and a living archive of the human experience.
And by the way, she titles this as a Judas strategy. She's calling this a betrayal against that culture. So, and obviously we are keepers and protectors of the culture here. So this is all kind of up our alley. Listen to it.
Lupe Fiasco has long since been considered one of the culture's most dedicated disciples. And yet, like Judas betraying Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, Lupe Fiasco, a celebrated lyricist and self-proclaimed protector of hip-hop, has chosen to betray the culture and its art by collaborating with MIT to train artificial intelligence to write and perform rap music. In an Instagram post, Lupe introduced this MIT collaboration known as Endless Loop. The post says the following. Imagine if there was a 24-hour, fully AI-powered
we read this
radio
part.
station.
All right, we read this part.
Train and syllable uniting together at MIT, and imagine we actually built it. Endless Loop, coming soon. This decision is a monumental betrayal of the culture. Lupe Fiasco's decision to partner with MIT on AI rap development comes under the guise of creating perfect art, but its consequences are far more sinister and destructive. One of the most troubling aspects of Lupe's collaboration is his choice of partner, MIT, a historically white elite institution far removed from the communities that birthed hip-hop. MIT is known for technology, but what kind exactly? Well, let's start with weapons of war used against black and brown people around the world and in the United States, including autonomous weapons systems developed for the military and facial recognition technology used by law enforcement, not to mention their emotion detecting AI on some Minority Report type shit. This partnership underscores a reoccurring theme in the gentrification and bondage of black culture and the likeness of black people, using black art and innovation as raw material for projects that ultimately serve white capitalist interests that can even include mass murder. Lupe claims that the project will culminate in a radio station featuring AI-generated Lupe raps. This might sound like a quirky experiment, but the implications extend far beyond his niche venture.
I'm going to leave it at that. Obviously, you could watch her whole clip. It's about 11 minutes long. She gets into a little bit more. And again, immediately, she was like, I agree with her already. And there's more to it, of course. But that's kind of sitting at the heart of a lot of the immediate concerns, the ethical concerns that have plagued, AI since obviously it started creeping into the art space in terms of artists, just regular artists, saying that there are, when you're using AI art, you're profiting off of, uh, you know, you're not compensating artists that the AI systems trained off of to then be able to recreate. Same thing with writers, same thing with, journalism. I'm a journalist. I used to work in journalism. AI is decimating the field. And it's like there are places that are jumping on these opportunities to be able to use these tools to basically replace humans and replace art and artists now. And so it's a big thing. It's a giant, it's not just hip hop. This is a possibly an existential crisis for humanity. I mean, it's not just us. This might be, the thing that ends everything, possibly, maybe. Who knows? But obviously, when we look at, and I've done some work, as you may or may not know, I also do some social justice journalism work, and we've looked at AI years ago. She mentioned facial recognition technology. We did entire stories very early on where facial recognition technology, which is AI powered, which was programmed by people, was falsely denoting people of color as being a perpetrator, matching up, blah, 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 because the AI was programmed by people who also couldn't tell black people apart. You know what I'm saying? So when they program the programming also has similar functional disparities. And that became the problem when people were getting arrested for things they didn't do because the computer couldn't tell them apart from another person of color or person from that ethnicity when the computers were much better at telling apart white people. And you have to wonder why that's possibly the case. It's because it's being programmed by people who aren't considering these racial and ethnic and all these nuances. So we know that technology can very often detrimentally affect people of color, people from marginalized communities, more so than anybody. So when you look at the field of music making, Andrew mentioned Suno. You mentioned these platforms that are now able to recreate music, create music from nothing that sound like modern R&B, modern lo-fi hip hop, modern rap, and hip hop music, modern pop music. And if you look at it's a whole other story, but if you look at Spotify, the way they've now been accused by some insider information of creating programs that are creating songs that have been artificially generated millions of times to basically take attention off of actual human artists making music. And if those music and those artists are from genres that are generally represented by marginalized people of color or folks from those communities and those demographics, they're going to be the first ones to get hurt by this technology that's basically being built to recreate the stuff that they do and fool people into believing that it's done by artists. Right? Does that make sense? Am I on it? Like, is this why this is so problematic? Certainly for art in general, and much more so for artists of color, artists that are making the kind of music we talk about here, artists that have created the most influential and most socially conscious and most important, some would say, music genre in humankind that is spread around the world and is used as ways to, inform the populace, to spark social change, to spread information, to pass along educational materials that might not be taught about in schools, all of the things that hip hop music can do. And now you're finding ways to supplant and replace all of those people and just make the entertainment portion be all that anyone does, knows, hears, or has access to. Wild. Wild. Good point, Natalie. I'm not mad at AI and facial recognition for not recognizing Black folks. We don't need to be surveilled more than we already are. Watch Coded Bias. We talked to the lady. Was that based off of a book or an article or something? We talked to the lady for our story, actually, in that. But I get your point. I think it's valid. But it's also just, it's more of an example of how the technologies will damage, more folks than others, and I think across the board. So yeah, it's a wild story, and again, to hear that Lupe Fiasco is in the middle of it. Now, let me say this: Lupe Fiasco offered a response, and that should be taken into consideration. I'm not going to play it, but I will tell you where to get it from. So again, Curtis with two S's, Curtis King, did a story. Also, by the way, Curtis King talks about the Spotify. I'm not trying to send you somewhere else. I hope you subscribed and thumbs up me, but I'm not going to gatekeep. They may not talk about me, but I'll talk about them. It's all good. They do good work. It needs to be shouted out. Did a great story on the Spotify issue that I just talked about. So if you want to know more about the Spotify issue, so Curtis King TV on YouTube. Little more subscribers than I have. He has 304,000, and I have, so he has about 303,000 more than I do, which is fine. It's great. Good story on the Spotify thing. I found out about through him as well. And then if you look at this video right here on his homepage, you actually hear him, because what I love about this is some cool journalism-ish. He basically screen captured Lupe's Instagram Live. So Instagram Lives don't last. You can't go back and watch it. But he was watching it, he recorded it, and then was able to replay it back for the friends of his show. So you hear
it and what their
Lupe,
goals may be.
Fake.
If you
talk Lupe.
Like you wrong.
So here's Lupe.
Right, oh, you're gonna hate this one.
AI and machine learning can do everything that you can do better and faster.
You know how like you defend a friend of yours in front of your other friends, and they like, you wrong for defending him, and he say some shit like this, and you like,
stop. So his response. Now he does a whole long reaction video to it, and it's fun and it's interesting, and I like his nuance to it. There's nuance to this, is what I'm trying to say. Anything that we hear about in hip hop, all these big stories, there's always nuance to it, and that's what we'd like to do here. If I'm gonna talk about a story that's sort of in the mainstream or basically making it to the blogosphere or the YouTubeosphere, it's gonna be because we want to talk about the nuance of it. So listen, if you care about this, if you want to go down the rabbit hole, it's like a 3-hour rabbit hole, right? Right. So effort doesn't count anymore, Andrew says. But one of Curtis's points to one of Lupe's points was this, and I'll throw this out as the playing, white devil's advocate. I'll say that Curtis says it's happening. It is. Natalie, what do you think? It is happening. This stuff is happening. So what about the argument for being at the table? What about the argument for being part of it and doing it, your way, right? Doing it with your ingenuity, with your interaction, with your effort. Like, you're at MIT, yeah, you're right, Starlet. We should say, maybe let's create a new word. Let's create a new phrase, rabbit hole, going down a deep, whatever hole. But shouldn't maybe Lupe be doing it so that at least he's controlling it? Anyone with enough source material, anybody can make a Lupe AI. Anyone can make Lupe Fiasco. So he's saying, I'm going to do it. I'm going to control my own thing. So at least if there's a Lupe AI out there, it's my Lupe AI. The counter to that is, well, MIT's helping you design it. And if you're an elite lyricist and you're sort of like the go-to figure for teaching the world how to rap, and you're going to be the epitome of, lyricist, which is fine. A lot of people would give him, top lyricist, of top 15 of all time, but I don't know, whatever you might subjectively say, that he might be qualified to be on that level. Then are you giving the institutions, are you helping them develop the tools that will create the demise of the very art form you're supposed to be there to lift up and promote, protect, and promulgate throughout academia the proper way? But instead, you're giving them the keys to the cultural castle and then walking away while the castle crumbles. That would be the counter to the counter. So there's a lot of nuance happening here with this issue. Yeah, I think that's the crux here, Nat. It's been happening. You can't run from it. We must center ethics and education, though. So I think that this, like I said, part one of Lupe's story tonight. He's at Yale. He's at MIT. He's at Johns Hopkins. Yes, I'm cool with it all. I love my hip hop academics that approach it authentically and with the culture and with love and with ethical concerns and try to do it the right way, and not just there to as Dr. Gloria Ladson Billings told me on our interview, we don't want teachers to use hip hop. We want teachers to be hip hop, and when you do it that way, you actually do improve the educational space. So yes, 100 times yes. But part 3 of this was, okay, I love what Kane's doing. I love what you're doing, Nat. I love the connection of the hip hop creativity and mindset and ingenuity with the Web3 world. It's the perfect place for it. I talked about it on Kane's show. It's the perfect place for it because it's that kind of ingenuity, that outside of the box thinking that is hip hop. Couple that with the Web3 world and all kind of things can happen. And we need more people. And I want to get Kane on here. I want to get Nat. We should do a panel show, long overdue, to talk about what this could mean for artists, for artistry. Because y'all think about it from the creative standpoint, from the standpoint of what you just said. It's here. There's nothing you could do about it. So let's work it without letting it work us. That's right? That's, I think, what we're trying to find a way to say, is that can we work it without it working us? And how do we do that? And is Lupe Fiasco toying that line a little bit too dangerously? I'd like to hear more from the folks that are deep in this game and deeply know, what the ramifications are, what as Charlotte said, the precedent is. So we're going to back burner this because, as I said a couple shows ago, I really want to have a deep-rooted AI hip-hop conversation here. I think that other people are going to do it, and they're going to have people that are just fine to talk about it. But I think we know the types of folks to talk to really get the nuanced, outlook and to get it out. So I'd like to do that. I'd like to do a panel discussion on it. It obviously held y'all attention tonight. It holds my attention. It's a really interesting field. It's a really interesting thing. We'll keep an eye on what Lupe is doing. And that is number 1. We'll do a couple more, but that is number 1 in tonight's segment that I like to call Hip-Hop News That Isn't About Dumb Shit. Yeah. Hey, look, I got another angle. No, that's not the angle I wanted. I want this angle. Okay, there you go. So, so Curtis TV, Absa effing Lutely on YouTube, Shouts to them doing the damn thing. Once again, if you want stories like this, I do a really good job of putting out a newsletter every couple of weeks at least. Let me just throw Nat's brilliance back in the mix. The music industry and the art world saying the same thing about NFTs and everything else we were doing, when in reality we were crafting a creative economy and global community that allowed artists to eat. That's what I'm saying. That's what I get from y'all. And there's a bunch of folks I want to talk to in depth and bring to this platform because, again, I'm actually not smart enough to understand it all, but I'm smart enough to know that there's something there. And just in the talk that I've done with a few folks in the Web3 hip hop world, we found that there are some really interesting things. And again, I think I'm praising myself that I said it the way I did, is that we can, work it without letting it work us. And so, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm also just mad that I gave up my Bitcoin and Ethereum like a bunch of years ago when I should have kept it. But anyway, whatever. Moving along, the free newsletter at the bottom, mannyfaces.substack.com. You'll find that I curate stories like this. So if I go back to an earlier one, let's see. This is what the newsletter looks like. I say a bunch of words, and then there's this section that's called Hip Hop News that isn't about dumb-ish. By the way, the section is brought to you by our subreddit. I don't know if anyone's on Reddit here, but there is a subreddit that I control that's called Hip Hop Culture. So if you go to r/hip hop culture on Reddit, we share these stories there too, and I'd love for some interaction there. So if anyone's in that world, tell me about Joey Badass, Andrew Wang, and why we should talk about Joey Badass, who I like. I like Joey Badass a lot. I know he's doing something with a school teaching too, right? Clive Davis, maybe? I don't know. Tell me what I forgot about Joey Badass. But we are on Reddit. So if you're on Reddit, we have a subreddit called Hip Hop Culture. Obviously, a lot of people know about hip hop heads in Reddit. It's a big music discussion, but we are Hip Hop Culture. We discuss more than just music. Look at that. Look at us. Look at us on Reddit. And of course, we're also on Discord now. And I'm starting to feed that out. It's very sparsely populated. Yeah, I mean, I know he did something with Chris Emden and Joey Badass, but let me know what he's doing that's worthy of speaking about. In a longer setting. Yeah, that's what it was. Columbia. I'm just putting the Discord link. I don't know if any are on Discord. But I'm putting in the chat. We're on Discord now as well. It's a small channel we just started. So if anybody, so he's a scholar in residence at Teachers College. Is that true? Okay, very cool. I don't care about the diss. I mean, that's cool, but we don't talk about that stuff here so much. But if he's doing some work with Chris and them at Teachers College, we'll give that a shout out for sure. The Discord is there. The newsletter also not only gives you hip hop news like this, but also, Andrew Wang, we were talking about this earlier offline, the importance of knowing when things are happening in the world, including dope and interdisciplinary hip hop events. So speaking of our friends, Hip-Hop Ed, Chris Emden, and the folks at Hip-Hop Ed, Charlotte Michelle's in the building. We love the folks at Hip-Hop Ed. We talk about them often. We always big them up. We've worked in partnership with them, and they have a yearly conference that will happen in New York City, the Hip-Hop Ed Conference. So if any of these things are important to you, there's only one place. I hate to say this. I don't hate to say this. I'm very proud. There's only one place you could find a comprehensive, up-to-date listing of all of the major academic or institutional gatherings of hip-hop minded folks outside of entertainment. I'm not talking about Revolt World. That's cool. You're going to hear about Revolt World. I'm talking about the Hip-Hop Ed Conference. I'm talking about at The Ohio State University, the Hip-Hop Literacies Conference is happening in March. Did you know that there's a Hip-Hop Literacies Conference happening in March at The Ohio State University, run by Dr. Elaine Richardson, one of the greats? And we love Dr. E. We love the Hip-Hop Literacies Conference. It's all about hip-hop feminisms this year. That's the topic of discussion. And when we say academic conference, don't think that you just have to be an academic to go to these conferences. You could be a hip hop artist. You could be a hip hop fan. You could be a parent. You could be an advocate. You could be someone is in academics, and you can go to these conferences and you'll find so many beautiful things. They're free usually. Usually, and it's not like $25 for like registration. These aren't big. It's not Revolt World. This is not like big $1,000 tickets and da. No, these are small. They're intimate. They're focused. But if you're near Columbus, Ohio, for God's sakes, and you're a hip hop head that talks about hip hop culture, shouts to my folks in Dayton. I got hip hop heads. Shouts to Jay Webb. Shouts to all the people out there. MC Picket Fence, DJ Lady Bounce. Shouts to my peoples in Dayton, Ohio, right near outside of Columbus area, sort of. We got heads in the area. You want to go to these things. Shouts to Rutgers. We're going to talk about Rutgers in a minute. We're going to talk about my good friends at the Hip-Hop Youth Research and Activism Conference. There's only one place. You're going to hear about all of these things. And so I implore you, if you have not already signed up for mannyfaces.substack.com, it's a free newsletter. And you can, if you feel so inclined, I even ask you tonight, I've been totally pitch free tonight. If you can, Charlotte, Picket Fence. I hung out with him and wifey last Thanksgiving in Dayton, like the old homies that I haven't seen in years. So like I got pictures with them. We were there. I rocked the stage with them. Like they were there. No, they didn't rock, but they were there, and it was great. I rocked the stage in front of them. So yeah, so we have friends from New York that migrated. Anyway, the whole point is that I'm trying to find my tribe, and y'all are like my folk, and so please subscribe to the newsletter. That's what I'm trying to say. Subscribe to the damn newsletter so we can stay in community. Go on the Discord so we can stay in community. This is important. Y'all can't always be here Monday night at 9:00 and do the lives with me, but we can stay in community. I can give you updates. I can tell you where we're going to be. We're going to be at Ohio State. We're going to be at Rutgers. We're going to be, when I say we, I mean like-minded, like hip-hop-minded folks like we're here tonight. We're going to be at Words, Beats, and Life in D.C. We're going to be at Howard University again. I'm a chair in the Hip Hop Association for Advancement in Education. We're going to have a conference this year. We had one in San Jose, California 2 years ago. I'll tell you where we're going to be. And you can get more of this. It's not just me. I'm just a guy. I'm just one guy telling you all the things that I'm getting from all the data points coming in. We could be together. We could be in New York City for Hip Hop Ed. We could be in Boston. We could be in these places if you're around. So stay tuned. Come Hartford, Connecticut. Andrew Wang. We're going to be at the Trinity College International Hip Hop Festival this year. Like, that's where we're going to be. And this year I'm releasing a book. So I might be at all these damn places with books. So, you know what I mean? Like, we could talk when you're buying a book. So I want you to know about all these things. There's only one person in the world who could tell you off the top of his head, like I just did, like 5 or 6 or 7 upcoming hip hop academic conferences that are happening off top. And believe me, like, there's going to be more, and they're not always, there's no dig against them. They put it out there. Like, there's a call for papers, by the way, right now for Ohio State for the hip hop feminisms at the Hip Hop Literacies Conference. So if you're a presenter or, a practitioner, or you want to, do something at the Hip Hop Literacies Conference in Ohio State, there's a call for papers. I put those out too. So if any of this is important to you, the newsletter, damn it. Thank you. Thank you, Charlotte Michelle. I appreciate you. I try to be a super guy.
Manny Faces.
You sick for this one.
So a few more items and then we'll go for the night. This is the first shot of the year. And, a couple more items before we go. Let's go. The Global Hip Hop Studies Journal, January 31st. Also, January 31st. Again, it's all in the newsletter, but also January 31st. Oh, that's Words Meets the Life, the Hip Hop Journal. They're also going to have a festival in April, Words Beats in Life. Good organization. Shouts to Mazi Mutafa, shouts to McCalamine, and all our friends at Words Beats in Life. A couple more items on the segment that is the extended segment tonight, I like to call
Hip Hop News that isn't about dumb shit.
So, I mentioned the Spotify thing. You should check that out. Spotify exposed for stealing playlist slots from indie artists. Again, Curtis King TV. Other people broke it down, but Curtis King broke it down, all the breakdowns. So I mentioned it before. So shouts to Curtis King doing his thing. We talked about Lupe. Rest in peace. Rest in peace. This is, I don't say it's a silly story. It's not a silly story. Oh, I got to put it in a, Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I love the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and I can't bypass it. Dang it! I mean, I point to articles in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, but then you can't see them because it's behind a paywall. So what's the point of sharing it with you? They do good work. They write about hip hop a lot. They wrote my op-ed about a year and some change ago. I had a full page op-ed. I have it framed here somewhere. It was my first national hip hop op-ed in a newspaper. Anyway, rest in peace to the late great Jimmy Carter. I know, we're not gonna get into politics and things like that necessarily today. And usually when the president dies, it's all this pomp and circumstance, and then some of us are sitting here mumbling and grumbling because but they also did terrible things because they were president, and presidents have to do terrible things, or they just do. They don't have to. They just do terrible things sometimes. So we watch all the pop and circumstance, and then we're like, God, you putting all this out there for someone that either was a war criminal or worked with war criminals or just did some things that, necessarily didn't help all the people. And that's, people on the progressive side of things, sometimes on the very far right, would say the same thing about presidents who pass away. That being said, I don't know. Personally, can't find a whole hell of a lot wrong with Jimmy Carter. And, probably, as my man Max from Uneffing the Republic, a very progressive leaning political podcast that I work on as well. I think he said he wasn't the best president, but he was the best man to be president. You know what I'm saying? Like a good dude and, generally a decent character. I watched some of the Carter Center, tributes. I'm in Atlanta. It's a big thing out here, obviously. And thought it was interesting. And then there was some Atlanta Journal-Constitution, which I don't even have a pay for. Just pointed out a bunch of connections that hip hop, where hip hop mentioned and generally bigged up Jimmy Carter. It doesn't mean anything. You could show me the same article for a bunch of times that hip hop bigged up Donald Trump. It doesn't mean anything. These things are stupid. I hate some of these stories, to be honest with you, when it's like hip hop reacts to X thing that happened, and then the article is just filled with 15 tweets from random rappers. It's kind of stupid. But I just wanted to say, in some ways, I guess, tribute the late great Jimmy Carter in a hip hop way. So I chose that story to highlight. Another Atlanta situation going on. Rick Ross and his symphony. We've talked about this a few times. Rick Ross, whether you like him or hate him, doesn't matter. It's not what we talk about here. It's very subjective. He could be one of your goats. He could be one of your, what's the opposite of a goat? Greatest of all time. Worst of woat? Worst of all time. Yeah, woat. So it's a woat. Anyway, so Rick Ross became one of the latest in a long line of people, of artists, of hip hop artists, with a bit of a, what do you call it? A canon, a catalog of music that's decided to rock with an orchestra. And I generally point these out when I hear about them. I think it's very, 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 very cool. The first one I saw ever do this was Pharoah Monch. Pharoah Monch rocked with a I think he rocked with the Pitch Black Brass Band, but it might have been a fuller ensemble. But it was back in New York City. I covered it when I was when I was writing, the online publication that I created and ran for 10 years called Birthplace Magazine, where I was, covering hip hop music and culture in and around New York City. And I went to a Pharoah Monch concert where he did, I guess it was probably, uh, internal affairs, maybe the whole album to a orchestra, or it might have just been, greatest hits, just a regular concert. But it was great. And I was like, oh my God, this is cool as hell. This is so dope. And Pharoah Monch is obviously, again, top tier lyricist, dope MC, really rocks well with the band. And then you saw, or with the ensemble, and then you saw that happening several times throughout the next few years. Nas famously did this at the Kennedy Center with like the National Pops Orchestra or the National Symphony Orchestra or whatever. Rakim's done it. Andrew Wang points out that Jadakiss just did one here in Atlanta. I don't know if he did it other places, but I know he did it in Atlanta. Charlotte Michelle says Yasin Bey used to rock with the Brooklyn Philharmonic. Word, true indeed. So these interactions are great. And also shouts to like the Phantom. So the THEE Phantom and the Phantom Philharmonic Orchestra, who I've interviewed on this show. Is an orchestra, is a musical ensemble themselves that do hip hop, and so they'll do some original stuff. They'll do some interpolations. Again, the Pitch Black Brass Band was out in New York for many years. They would work with underground and independent artists, and they used to have this like, I guess it was like a monthly. I love this. This was so much fun. And shout to my man Jay Swiss, my man Silent Night, whose song Ogre you heard at the beginning of the podcast of the live stream. Rabbi Darkside, now known as by his government, Sam Sellers. They did these basically the same thing, like the version of like a bunch of my songs to this brass band orchestra. Shouts to the Soul Rebels. Like there's a lot of music bands, the Roots, of course. These, melding of hip hop and musicianship that I think gets thought of as gimmicky, like, oh, he did a song with the orchestra, but you wouldn't say that if like, I don't know, Whitney Houston, God rest her soul, was still alive and decided to do, a night at the Pops, and it was a full orchestra when she made electronic music. I mean, most of her music was electronically created. You wouldn't say like, oh, cute, Whitney. No, like it's as viable as anything else. And I think I guess it does serve in some way, not that we need validation from people, but it does serve to validate that. And something we talked about earlier today, when we talked about Lupe being at the Peabody Conservatory, that hip hop is music. Like I rarely talk about the music aspect, the element of hip hop here. I rarely talk about the commercial aspect of it. We talk about all the other stuff, certainly the other elements, but also like the interactions. And yes, it's music, but it's not music focused. But okay, let's focus. Like it's music, damn it. This is what the late Jared Shield, was making the argument. Like we can't give it any less credence than we do Duke Ellington. And even that took years for the canon, the ivory towers of music academia to give Duke Ellington his props. So he's saying we can't do that to him. We shouldn't do that to hip hop. We should welcome these things. So anyway, Rick Ross did it, and yay. And I wish I could go to these things. I've only gone to, Jeezy did one out here, and of course the Tiny Desk series. We talked about Tiny Desk all for like we love the Tiny Desk thing. So I love seeing these things. I think they're great. And one thing I like about Rick Ross, I'm not like the biggest Rick Ross like fan, but I'm not, I don't turn up my nose at Rick Ross music. I think he's fine as, as commercial hip hop artists go. He's been pretty good and made some pretty good songs that like still kind of get us amped and stuff. But I always, he got an ear for music, man. He chews some beats. He knows how to pick them. And musically, his ish is tight. Like his songs are dope. They're musically there. You may not like him, or I don't care if you like. It's not my you know me and subjectivity. I don't give a damn. But you can't deny that, like from a hip hop beat standpoint, Rick Ross picked some bangers, and to hear them interpolated by an ensemble, an orchestra, is probably pretty dope. So anyway, it happened. It happened here in the A, and there was a review about it. I linked to it. You should know about it. You should know these things. It's the kind of thing. Oh, I have the wrong banner at the bottom. The banner at the bottom, begging you to donate to my Patreon. But also, all these things can be found at the free newsletter down there at the bottom. So that's what happened there. We mentioned that. I did extend past our borders a little bit. This is Hip Hop Can Save America. But of course, you know, sometimes we'll give a little bit of love to our. What's happening? Oh no. We'll give a little bit of love to our partners in different parts of the world that are doing things. And, you know, we point out when these things are happening. And in Canada, for example, we have a class being set up at the Jarvis Collegiate Institute in Toronto, T-Dot. So this is part of helped by the music education charity Music Counts, and they're now working with hip hop in the classroom. And part of it is being run by rapper Shad. Now, if you know Shad, Shad is a Canadian rapper. Had his moment in the light in the commercial industry a bunch of years ago. Probably best known outside of music from being, I think he was the executive producer, but also the host of the documentary. Hip-hop documentary series. I forget the name of it. It was on Netflix. It was Shad. Hip-Hop Evolution, right? So you might have seen this Hip-Hop Evolution on Netflix. This series was a bunch of seasons, and Shad was the host and the executive producer, but he was a rapper, and he's from Canada, and so now he's doing work also in the academic sphere. So we sent a little bit of love for it. Here's a little clip from the music curriculum clip that they play. Let's watch it and see what's happening up north.
That I've learned from hip hop is maybe it just needs to breathe for a second. There's not a lot of spaces where hip hop is really studied and
I play this because I need to breathe for a second because I'd be talking. But anyway.
Maybe it just needs to breathe for a second. There's not a lot of spaces where hip hop is really studied and taken seriously, right? So I'm sure there's a lot of misconceptions floating around that the class probably addresses, but indirectly. You know, I'm really just trying to say, here's this beautiful musical tradition that I know, that I'm steeped in, that's given me so much in terms of a voice, in terms of a lens at looking at, you know, music, but also just the world. And let me share it with you in all of its richness.
But as times...
So I love this. Of course, we advocate for anyone using hip hop in the classroom in an authentic manner. Shad has been in this game for a long minute, and I don't know him, but I believe that he's doing, and you can just hear it in what he's saying. He's of our tribe. He's in the mix here. He needs to know about what we're doing, and so we let people know about what he's doing. Shouts to everyone in the chat, putting in some things that they saw this year. By the way, before we head out tonight, whoever's left, let us know your new hip hop year's resolutions. I know we said a couple at the top. We're talking about some things. Oh, we're talking about that Doechii video. Doechii's amazing. She's brilliant, and I love it. So your new hip hop year's resolutions, not what you want hip hop to do in the new year, not what you want from hip hop, because we can talk about that all day. I want more of this, more of that. No. What you plan to do for hip hop this year. I'm going to try to keep doing these shows and be consistent, and put out newsletters, and hopefully I can do that and eventually make some kind of living doing this. Nobody pays me for this because nobody wants us talking about hip hop that can be used to help America. Most people want to talk about hip hop in ways that are hurtful or that are just entertainment or not really important, and not talking about hip hop in the classroom, and not talking about, hip hop and AI and the ethical considerations and how it might hurt minority communities. They don't want to pay me to talk about that. They want to pay me to talk about, drama and whatever it is happening in the hip hop drama sphere. So I'm just going to keep doing this, and hopefully at some point it'll reach that tipping point and the people will realize that there's a home for them. There's plenty of us out there that don't even know we're doing this right now. So that's my resolution, to keep doing it. I will ask that y'all spread the word a little bit. Make sure you're thumbs upping and doing all the subscribing and turn on notifications. That's your part here. And then tell a friend about what you saw here and what you're seeing here, and see if we can do that. But also, what are your hip hop New York? What are you going to do besides that? If that's your resolution, that's a great one. Tell people about Manny's show. That's good. We will like that. The kids love it. So if you want to make the kids happy, tell people about the show. That's great. But if you have anything else that you plan to do, I asked this on my Facebook page, and I got some really good answers I'm going to share with you before we head out in a few minutes. 2 more stories maybe on hip-hop news that isn't about dumb-ish that I came across. This was an interesting story. We always love to big up. I don't like to separate. I don't like to say, hey, let's talk about the women MCs and, who's doing what with the, which women MCs are rocking, but I also don't like to, I like to also shine light, because a lot of folks will have real judgmental things to say about women in hip hop. And it's a nuanced story. Remember, everything we talk about, I say, is nuanced. And anyway, NPR, who I don't always go to for my, hip hop news, and matter of fact, I've called them out for not doing hip hop news very well. But they had a story this year about, it's sort of a year-end wrap-up. I don't think I mentioned it in the last show, that Southern women are shaping the sound of hip hop's future. And there was some really good, insight in there. And this is Sydney Madden. She's written for them before. It's a nice, well thought out piece about folks like Glorilla and Lotto. And we don't always, and of course, Doechii. And so mentioning Doechii, this was a great segue. So we don't always talk about, again, the commercial aspect of hip hop, but we do amplify the underreported and underappreciated aspects of hip hop music and culture. And again, there will be a lot of talk. I see it to this day on Facebook or whatever social media platform I might be on, and someone will make some statement, some engagement trap, some nonsensical, I'm not really here for real thoughtful engagement, about something they see in a woman MC today, and they'll compare it to like Lauryn Hill, and they'll have like this little snippet of, some raunchy, ratchety, young woman MC spitting something or whatever, and they'll be like, before and after, then and now, like, and it's such a straw person's argument. That's such a waste. It's such a waste of time. It's such a waste of mental power to make these cherry pick straw person arguments where you have like this versus that. I see it all the time. It's all engagement traps. Half of it is bots. And the problem is we all, but a lot of people fall for it. So when I tell you, that I don't like to single out women MCs and be like, oh, here's a woman MC doing this thing. We shouldn't have to do that. But we still have to do that in a way that obviously just uplifts voices that get shut down and marginalized and drowned out. So when I see a good story about an MC in hip hop or a hip hop figure that happens to be a woman that's doing a good thing, I may do a little extra push for it, because we don't get to see a lot of that from most of our hip hop media, and certainly not enough from our mainstream media. So good story on NPR. Nice job, Sydney Madden. Shouts. And so I shared that to the newsletter, sharing it with you all now. If you want to get these, just go to the newsletter page, mannyfaces.substack.com, and you'll be able to look at the last episode, edition rather. 2 more stories. One, this isn't really Three more stories. This one's not even really worth talking about. We'll talk about it real quick. Jay-Z apparently wanted to change the name of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to the Hip Hop Hall of Fame. It's a weird story. Y'all heard about this? So, of course, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, Ohio, often inducts non-rock and roll inductees. So there have been many folks from hip hop and kind of other genres. I like that resolution, Natalie. I need help. I need help bullying Andrew Wang. So Jay-Z apparently said he wanted to change the name of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to the Hip Hop Hall of Fame. If this is Jay-Z trying to be a hip hop cultural warrior, first of all, we don't want our cultural warriorism from Jay-Z. I speak, I think, for many cultural hip hop warriors who are like, "No, Jay, you let us handle this. We don't need your help. It's fine. You're not really one of us." It says the chairman John Sykes told Vulture. I should have gone. This is Up Rocks. I should have gone right to Vulture. Please, when you're sharing a hip hop story, by the way, this is a small thing, and every time you share a hip hop story that just copies from the original reported piece, a hip hop puppy gets kicked. So please, when you share a story, I'm guilty of this here, so I'm calling myself out, but I'm calling y'all out. When you share a hip hop story and it's very clearly just sourcing from another story that originally reported it, please go to the original story and share that instead. Most of hip hop media just regurgitates what is reported by other outlets. They don't actually do original reporting. And as much as I love, no, I don't love hip hop media sites at all. Actually, that's a lie. You should, if Boise, Idaho Times or the Chicago Picayune Tribune was the one to report on the story first, but Hip Hop DX is writing about it or Up Rocks is writing about it, and it's like, oh, this is what he told Vulture, then share the story from Vulture because they originally reported it. Okay? So, and Vulture has behind a paywall. So, kiss my ass, Vulture. I tried to help you out, and this is what I get. Anyway, so Up Rocks, maybe that's why I did it, because it wasn't behind a paywall. Anyway, John Sykes, the chairman of the the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, said, Jay-Z says, quote, Jay-Z got inducted. I was so excited, but he told me, quote, this is from Jay-Z, rock is dead. Should be called the Hip Hop Hall of Fame. Okay. And the guy said, well, hip hop is rock and roll. So Jay-Z says, no, it isn't. And the guy says, we got to do a better job explaining it. Little Richard, Otis Redding, Chuck Berry, these artists were the cornerstones of rock and roll. If you look at the sounds over the years, these artists ended up influencing hip hop, which is true. Jay-Z hemmed and hawed, he said, but he showed up to the ceremony. That made me feel like we had done our job to communicate that rock and roll is open to all. What a ridiculous conversation these two men had. What an absurd conversation. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame shouldn't be called the Hip Hop Hall of Fame. Rock isn't dead any more than hip hop is dead. But the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame I didn't say indicting, talking about Jay-Z. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inducting hip hop artists is weird. It's fine, but it's weird. If you're doing it by saying that rock and roll influenced a lot of musical pathways that came after it, hip hop is one of them. And so we're going to, fine. I think that's what they've been saying all these years when people are like, why is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inducting hip hop artists to begin with? But fine, whatever. But when Jay-Z says it should be called the Hip Hop Hall of Fame, obviously, no, it shouldn't, because you wouldn't be inducting Creedence Clearhouse Revival. I know I got that wrong. You know what I'm talking about. You wouldn't be inducting, them into the Hip Hop Hall of Fame. So that's stupid. if what you're trying to say is that hip hop deserves its own Hall of Fame, that's a different conversation, but that's not what he's so that's ridiculous. The guy's response to say, but hip hop is rock and roll is absurdly ridiculous in response. Like this whole conversation, were they high? Were they just like, what is happening here? Because hip hop is not rock and roll. Then the dude says that all these essentially black artists, black American artists, like created the foundation, which became rock and roll, which then became and spawned all these. Yeah, fine, sure, that's fine. Which is your rationale for having hip hop artists in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to begin with? They ended up influencing hip hop, I guess, sure, but you know, so did rhythm and blues, and rock and roll and rhythm and blues were kind of two different things. And, you know, obviously, again, blues influenced rock and roll. So really, you're going to call it the Blues Hall of Fame? It should probably be called the Blues Hall of Fame if you're going by that logic, because blues influenced rock and roll. So this is the dumbest conversation that I've ever heard between two people that make more money per second than I make in a decade. And I had to sit here and read this and think, I don't know, I don't understand. And I don't need Jay-Z caping for hip hop at all, because he's not the one. I don't care what you say, call him the GOAT or not. And there's arguments to be made. He's not. And look, I'm not saying I am. Don't come at me. Don't come at me. Hate people that come at people like me. I'm not saying I am either, but I'm saying, come on, the whole thing was stupid. If what you want to say is like that hip hop has supplanted rock and roll, that's a fact. Everyone knows that. If you want to say that, you know, hip hop should be at the center of the universe, I'm agreeing with all this. Whole show is about that. But this is a dumb conversation, and I hated it. And I wanted to share my disdain with you. And I don't even know what y'all said in the chats. But this is so dumb. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. And I just thought it was dumb, and I wanted to share it with you. So I don't know. Something that is not dumb, and I'll talk about this quickly. If you are a artist, sure, if you're an artist, if you're an educator, oh, dang, we lost a couple people. I'm running late. Dang, I should have done this one earlier because this one's super important. If you're an educator or a person with young people in your life, this one's for you. I don't know if Jay-Z's far from the GOAT, Nelson. I mean, I think you can make an argument for Jay-Z being, you know, the GOAT when it comes to, you know, hip hop and rap and, you know, and such. Again, these are all subjective conversations, but if you listed out the criteria that I tend to think of in terms of, you know, output, longevity, popularity, sales, and impact, you know, there's an argument to be made. May not be your choice, but that's fine. But I do want to say this again, moving to this important piece of information. And listen, it's okay that people don't watch it live. You might be watching on the replay. Shouts to the replay gang. We do stream live every Monday, 9 p.m. It is what I like to call now hip hop's most important and enlightening media ecosystem, right? The world's most important and enlightening hip hop media ecosystem. We have the live stream. When we do interviews, we take the interviews and we throw them on the podcast. So we have an audio version as well. So we have the videos, we have the audio, we have the newsletter that I talked about all night, the mannyfaces.substack.com, the Hip Hop Save America newsletter. This year, 2025, I'm proud to announce, I don't know exactly the dates yet or the pricing or the details. I'll tell you all when I know all the things. But we have Hip Hop Can Save America, the book by me, yay me, hand clap, tap, pat on the back. That's coming out. We have the Discord that we're trying to build up a little bit for folks that are on Discord. So we're building an ecosystem here of people that like to talk about this type of stuff. So even though we don't have people live and direct, more will come when they see the recaps, and I'm splitting the videos and I'm taking the live streams, cutting them into chunks, and soon I'll have some money. If you donate to the Patreon, we'll get some people that can do this and chop up all the videos, and they'll put them up like all the other places get to do, and then more people will find out about what we do. And then they'll learn about really cool stuff like the Hip Hop Youth Research and Activism Conference and Youth Leaders Fellowship Program. So I'm going to blow this up a little bit so you can see it, what it says here. This is an organization that that spawned from our good friend, our dear, dear, dear friend, one of the loves of my hip hop academic life, Dr. Lauren Kelly, who you know if you've watched this show and if you're just in these circles, she's been on here a couple times. She's out of Rutgers University. She's also the just now retiring for this session, the hip hop, the Nasir Jones Hip Hop Fellow at Harvard University. She runs a program out of Rutgers University called the Hip Hop Youth Research and Activism Conference. I'll just read from the thing that's on the screen. The Hip Hop Youth Research and Activism Conference celebrates youth who are connected to hip hop, committed to social change, and unapologetically expressive in their art forms. We aim to decrease the use of stereotyping and unconscious biases, increase unity by building community, and show how hip hop has influenced people to speak out and create change. This could be the bio of this podcast. So obviously we are super well aligned. She started this program a bunch of years ago. I'm a mentor. I was brought into the organization as a mentor. I attend the conferences. I work with some of the young people. And when we say youth, we're really talking about like senior high school and freshman college, freshman and sophomore college age folk who put together an academic conference with performances and with presentations and with breakout rooms and sessions and panel discussions and all that, a conference that's focused on youth, on hip hop research and activism, right? Hip hop being looked at from a research point of view, sociologically, anthropologically, and from an activism point of view, politically, and how it can create, impactful change in society. But what's great about it is, and you see some of them there on the picture, it's run by the youth. The conference, which normally these conferences get run by faculty, by, the professors and such, and the youth help out. We get them to, man the tables and carry the snacks. No, in this conference, it's run by the youth. They decide what the theme is going to be. They put together the call for proposals. They decide, they receive the proposals. They decide they decide the schedule. They decide who's going to speak. They decide the keynote. They get the budget. They put it all together themselves. This is one of my favorite things in the world because it shows young people coming into college that the culture you love, the culture that you're a part of, the culture that you may not even think of, as Dr. Jason Rawls from The Ohio State University said on my show a year ago, practically today. He says, these kids don't even think that they're hip hop. They don't think of it necessarily as like, I am hip hop. It is part of my culture. It's how I identify. But if you ask them to give you characteristics of their culture, of how they identify culturally, it's hip hop. So this shows them that your culture doesn't have to be left at the college door. You don't have to walk into these classrooms and put who you are and how you see the world and how you talk and your interests and how you carry yourself and what you believe in and what you talk about and what's important to you has to be left at the door because now you're in college and you have to follow our college rules. No. Hip hop belongs here too. And you could bring your hip hop sensibilities here, and we want you to. We want you to look at hip hop from a research angle. We want you to be incorporated into your life and into your studies. We want you to know that if you want to make change in the world, hip hop is your tool for activism. It's your tool for amplification of your voice. And to show you that, we're going to mentor you. We're going to help you out because you never ran a conference before. But we're going to show you, we're going to mentor you, we're going to be here to guide you. But you're going to make this conference the way you see fit. And you're going to now, each one teach one your way around your campus. And you're going to bring in people so that you can, signal boost this beautiful idea that hip hop belongs here. And it's a part of the college experience that everyone treasures, which is to like open your mind and expand your worldview. Nothing better than hip hop for that. And so this program is great. It encourages youth to not leave their culture behind and to apply it to all of the great things that you do learn when you're in college, all the other things that you now have access to and are becoming familiar with that you didn't have in your small town or your small school, wherever you might have come from. So super dope program. if you know people who are young, aged 14 to 21, every year they select a new member from a pool of youth applicants from 14 to 21 to serve as fellows for this program, the HHYRA Youth Leaders Fellowship. They co-organize the annual conference, they review proposals, they attend other conferences, they receive teaching and training, leadership, and mentoring youth. The conference will take place in May at Rutgers University at the New Brunswick campus. Again, the conference is great. Again, designed by the Youth Leaders Fellows, brings together youth from diverse communities for a day of workshops, dialogues, and interactions that revolve around the ideas of hip hop and social justice. To all the people who believe that hip hop no longer has the ability to be a force for the fight for social justice, I implore you to pay attention to this program, with this program too, their program, and you will be absolutely blown away at the brilliance and ingenuity and activism and social justice inclination and civic engagement that comes out of this program. It is simply the blueprint for how we should engage with young people on collegiate campuses across the country. So if anything you do has anything to do with academia, if anything you do has anything to do with young people, please, you can find it. It's a whole Google site thing. I'll put the link here in the chat. This is why, Charlotte Michelle, I love you. Thank you for coming by. I know you got to go. So it's there in the chat. If you need more information, please, once again, sign up for the newsletter, mannyfaces.substack.com. I'll put that in the chat as well. I very simply bring you all this information on a bi-weekly basis, when I do what I can. And you'll have all this information. So I wanted to share that with you. And very lastly, I know it's getting late. We're almost 2 hours in. This is crazy. It's so much stuff. I thought it was going to be a short one. Just one more example, folks. One more example of the greatness that can come from hip hop being blended with other fields and disciplines. This is what I'm working this year. This is my New Year's hip hop resolution. It's always my resolution. It's my job to find folks that are not necessarily connected to the culture like we are, and to guide them and say, listen, whatever you're doing, whatever your field is, whatever your business is, whatever your field is, it can be improved by incorporating hip hop into it. Not from a gimmicky kind of way, not from an extraction kind of way, not from an exploitative kind of way, from an authentic, collaborative way. And I do a whole tech talk. I do a whole keynote speech to the tech industry, which if you have any connections to that industry, will get me paid. Well, come on now. I do keynotes. I do employee resource group talks. I do all that stuff. Conferences. Let's go. But the point is that if you make this connection with hip hop, we talked about education tonight. I talked about technology. We didn't get a chance to really talk tonight, but we often do about health and wellness, mental health therapy, especially that intersection that exists. When people incorporate hip hop into it, lives get changed for the better. I know this may sound like I'm preaching to the choir, or you may be listening and you're like, what the hell is he talking about? This is bull. Hip hop is only destructive. I don't know what point you came to this show or how you came to find us, me and the community here. I promise you that if you think that hip hop can't do things to improve every single field and discipline across society, you're absolutely mistaken. And one of the examples, again, we may know this may be preaching to the choir. One of the examples of this is architecture. And you're going to be like, what? How can hip hop help architecture? It doesn't even make sense. Oh, it makes sense. It makes so much sense. I've talked about it before. There's a couple of places to look at this. The Hip Hop Architecture Camp, run by Michael Ford. I think he's originally from Detroit. Runs a great program, bringing the field of architecture to young people so that they're able to understand that, first of all, the field of architecture exists. There are multiple connections between hip hop and architecture. I could go into a whole story. I won't now, but I will later, about how hip hop literally came to be in part because of architecture. Like the reason why hip hop is a thing, like, the New York City, early 70s, has a lot to do with architecture, has a lot to do with Robert Moses, has a lot to do with the projects, has a lot to do with Paris, France, has a lot to do. There's a whole tie-in to architecture. And when you do this and you teach these stories to young people who love hip hop and urban planning and civic development, all this stuff could be tied into hip hop. And when you do it that way, you get young people, again, from predominantly underserved, under-resourced, and underloved communities that have never had access, don't even know that this is a thing they could get into, don't even know that architecture and urban planning is a thing you could get into. I talk about this with tech, with computer programming, and financial literacy, and forestry. There's so many fields that we found people that are doing, that are incorporating hip hop to make you understand that young people just don't know about these opportunities and these fields, but hip hop introduces it to them in a way that's engaging, insightful, and just brilliant. And so the Hip Hop Architecture Camp, which does workshops in different places around the country throughout the year, like sort of like 1 or 2 day workshops to like get local kids in. If you're a nonprofit or you're a school or you're a municipality, you can reach out to them and bring them to your location and set these things up and orchestrate these things. It's a brilliant program. They just offered a $10,000 hip hop architecture scholarship to a young lady. I'm not sure where, but I wanted to show this joyous occasion to remind you that, like I talked about in a video I just put up a couple days ago, about how such a small percentage of the tech community are people of color, are Black folk, are Hispanic folk. It's such a low percentage compared to, other industries or, the population. And it doesn't make any sense to me, because if you look at technology and hip hop, there's been an interaction since hip hop began that's been brilliant and full of ingenuity. And I do a whole hour-long keynote on how much hip hop has like technologically advanced things in the world. And we touch upon, honestly, how Black and brown folk throughout history have created and innovated and invented things that we all take for granted today and are overlooked and underappreciated. So my point to when I break all this down, is my point to the tech industry is like, why aren't they working here? Why aren't they part of your executive team? Why aren't you reaching out to the most innovative, most like thoughtful, most creative, most outside of the box thinkers that have ever walked the earth, practically? I don't know, but I would make the case. And that's like, folk in America who haven't always had the resources they needed, but still invented the things that changed the world. It's the first people I'm looking to help me do what I do. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just a guy. I'm just a humble guy that just knows how to talk and put like pretty lights and computers together. And I'm like, yo, how can we fix this through hip hop? And I find the people that are fixing this through hip hop. So why aren't everybody doing this? Why doesn't everybody see what I see? And we see that again in fields like architecture, where such a small, I want to say 3%, it's a number that's floated around, I'm off the top of my head, of like the architecture field are Black or people of color or indigenous or, or from traditionally marginalized communities, whatever terminology you want to use. Not white. 3%. But when you see some of the ingenuity that they bring into the architecture field, and quite honestly are often the ones most affected by urban planning that's not being done in their favor. And if we want equitable and equal and justice-filled communities, then we need people to build them who come from a mindset of trying to create an equitable and equal and just society. They can be found in the communities from whence hip-hop came, and that hip-hop can help introduce to those fields. The Hip-Hop Architecture Camp as well as Sekou Cook and other folks that work in this intersection, do brilliant work. I just wanted to show, this is a very quick clip. I want to show Michael Ford's Hip-Hop Architecture Scholarship to Cameron Johnson, and they surprised her, and it was beautiful, and I'm sharing it with y'all. Let's go.
My sister just told me we was going to get tacos. I didn't know anything about this. And then I walked through the door and I see my dad through the window with the Hip-Hop Architecture Camp shirt on. I'm like, oh, they got me. I know the scholarship results come out today, but I didn't know if it was going to come to me. So this was truly a surprise.
Hip-hop architecture has given Cameron a confidence that I never seen in her before. It made her believe in herself.
Well, I thought it was really cool to combine like a musical concept to architecture, and it's just a different way to explore architecture through a passion and a way to combine them both. So I think it's really dope.
We had like a lot of good applicants from around the country, but Cameron really showed out. Like, she deserved a scholarship.
Let's celebrate the person who's been rocking with us for so long. So it's an easy call for me.
Congratulations, Cameron. I always knew you could do it. You've always been a brightest star in one of our families. Congratulations, keep going. Sky's the limit.
Congratulations on winning the Hip Hop Architect Scholarship.
Congratulations. May your future be as bright as your smile.
It's important for us to give out scholarships like this because money always seems to be a barrier. So taking that barrier away and just allowing them to just thrive within the field is why we give out scholarships like this.
And Ms. Harris, I'm so glad you're here. Paris, thank you so much. This is so amazing. Thank y'all for coming out. To win a $10,000 means really just helping people that look like me, more minorities in architecture, you know, pushing that 0.02% female Black architects in architecture.
I appreciate Mike Ford because Cameron wouldn't have gone as far as she has with the architecture part of her high school years had it not been for her even enrolling there in the summer of her 9th grade year.
I want to thank Hip-Hop Architect for giving my daughter this scholarship. Congratulations, Cameron, to the moon and to the stars.
Congratulations, baby. We're so proud of you.
Congratulations, Cameron. On the way to the top. Love you.
All right, Miss Cam and Grandma, I'm proud of you.
I just want to thank Mike Ford, Asia Williams. Thank you guys so much. You all don't even know what this scholarship means to me, and it really helps.
Yeah. So there you go. Shouts to the good folks at the Hip Hop Architecture Camp. I have tried to get Michael Ford on this show a few times in the past. It's just been a scheduling thing. We haven't been able to make it work. I'm looking forward to speak to Mike Ford soon and get him on the show because his program's been around for a few years. It's admirable. It's admirable. And 0.2%, 0.3%. I was wrong. So I think it's like 3%. Maybe it's 3%, you know, total, like, you know, people of color in architecture. But she said 0.2, 0.3% of Black women in architecture. I mean, that's... If you know, like I know, Black women run, you know, are the best people in the world. I don't know why you would be happy at all with that. And whatever you do in life, to only have 0.2 or 0.3% Black women in your organization, in your field, in your discipline, in your life, it is sacrilegious to me. And so obviously the work to be done to increase equity and resources as LaToya points out, is important. And Hip Hop Architecture Camp does a great job of that. I've watched them for a while. I'm bigging them up, and I mean, how could you not celebrate that work? So they do a good job. I do love the connections between hip hop and architecture. It's actually a fascinating intersection. I may not have it here. Like I said, Sekou Cook is another person who has a book called, I think, Hip Hop Architecture, and Michael Ford runs the Hip Hop Architecture Camp. So just people to know about, just organizations to know about, and the things you'll find out about if you subscribe to the free Substack newsletter there. This is the type of stuff that I collect and share to y'all. So that's it. Yeah, that's all I got. That's all I got. I love the family support, Natalie. Yeah, absolutely. LaToya says not having the resources and access and still making a way. I mean, that's hip hop, right? That's why I love it like so much. One of the reasons why, hip hop has always been great. I wouldn't say I come from privilege, but obviously I come from privilege in some regard. But it was sort of like the things that I wanted to do, and I saw my friends wanted to do, and they didn't come from any form of the type of privilege I had, but the privilege I had to do it like a certain way. I had to go through, like, jump through the hoops. I'm a son of a college professor, so obviously, that was supposed to be my lane. But I was like, no, I want to be artistic. I want to be creative. I want to make music. This is my identity. These are my folk, and we wanted to like do these things and get into these, and I was personally, I was able to just like kind of say F it and do it, and not everyone can do that. You have to get in where you fit in and follow the rules. And the rules aren't built for folks that don't look like me, and I get that. So I really love initiatives like this, and my friends at Breakbeat Code who do the same kind of thing but for computer programming, because like to give that kind of access and that kind of like people don't even know that these are things you can do. I mean, I didn't know. I wouldn't have thought of, but I would have thought of art. Like I would have seen, growing up, I would have seen Michael Brady on the Brady Bunch. He's an architect. I don't know what he did. He had a nice house. He supported all them kids, and his wife stayed at home, and they had a maid. Alice was up in the piece, and they had dogs, and and all you knew was he was an architect. So this dude made buku bucks, and he was an architect. And I'm watching on TV, but he's a white dude. He looked like me. I'm like, oh, maybe I could be an architect one day. And I had that option. I had that ability that was there for me. I could say I could be an architect. Mike Brady's an architect. I could be an architect. And so some point in my life, I might have said, I want to be an architect. And I could have gone to college because my dad was a college professor, and he, had a little, he actually didn't have a hookup, unfortunately, because it was State University in New York, and they didn't give us free college. Anyway, whatever. Point is, I could have gone to college, and I did for about 16, 17 minutes. But that was through my own transgressions that I didn't continue. I was able to go to college. My dad would have paid for it. If I'd gotten into Harvard, I would have gotten to Harvard. He would have found money to pay for it. And so I had this thing that other people didn't have. But I might have said I want to be an architect. To think that my friends who I grew up with, who were predominantly black and, at least, a large percentage, and then like some folks were Latino in where I grew up, would have never seen an architect on TV. Wouldn't have never seen a black doctor on TV till the Cosby Show. Like, you don't even get to see that representation. So when I see the Hip Hop Architecture Camp, and when I talk to people and I say, hey, hip hop, man, hip hop can improve all these different fields and disciplines. Like, yeah, like what? I'm like architecture. And they're like, what? Architecture? How does hip hop, da-da-da? It's so foreign because they don't even think, and I'm talking about white people, black people, white people, don't even think that like that's a thing that you can A, get into, or B, could be tied into this culture. And so I love it. I love it. I love it. I want more of these things. I want to big them up and bring them to you and amplify and signal boost them as loud as I can. So there's 2 ways, there's like 7 ways, but there's 2 ways I'm gonna ask you tonight before we go. We're about to tune out and go to bed and keep working. I know we shook off the holidays. We back to work, I guess. I don't know. I'm still not there yet. 2 things we can do to make sure that we keep this thing going. Number 1, subscribe to the free newsletter, mannyfaces.substack.com. It really does help. We get these numbers up, and we can get some sponsors. We're giving you valuable information. All the things we talked about tonight, I basically pulled from what's in the newsletter. So if you watched 1 second of this tonight and was like, oh, that's interesting, then the newsletter is your thing. Sign up for it, please. You can subscribe there. You can actually, it's for free. But if you want, you could donate there, or you could donate at the Patreon, patreon.com/mannyfaces. Every dime goes back into this ecosystem that we're building. Obviously, this stuff costs money, and I do get paid to do podcasts, and I make a living, but it's not a very good one because, I don't make a lot of podcasts, and I don't work for NPR. So, to avoid me having to stop doing this to go work somewhere else for some corporation that doesn't care about this is really helpful. This is really helpful. And shouts to we have, I think, 2 new contributors, either on the Substack or on the Patreon. One is watching, and I thank you. I didn't ask, can I say your name publicly yet? I will, and then I'll big you up publicly. But thank you. I appreciate it. Every little bit counts, and it helps, and it all goes back into this. So those two things, the newsletter and the donations, is really great. Other than that, I'll probably be back next Monday. We will be having guests again, so I'm not just going to be babbling for hours on end, although we did a good job babbling together. I appreciate y'all. Tell a friend about what we do. Make sure before you go, give us a thumbs up. On your way out, you can share it and put it on your Facebook or on your, whatever you share to, and just say, wow, just had a great show, and let people watch the replay, and then they'll get FOMO that they won't want to miss the next one live. What else we got going on? I think that's it. I don't have anything else to talk with y'all about. I gave you everything I got. Y'all are the best in the world for being here with me. Thank you, Miss Parker. I adore you. I can't wait till we cross paths again in the future, in the near future. Hopefully, we'll certainly. Well, I guess maybe words beats in life. I don't know. Maybe by there, because that's near you. Shouts to Natalie Crew, the always present, the omnipresent, omnipresent Natalie Crew, who I am long overdue. But like we say, we planted a seed today. Come on, y'all. We planted a Hip-Hop Could Save America retreat. We planted a seed. New Orleans, 2025. We could do it. Maybe we can make something happen. I actually do have ideas for a retreat. I low-key launched a nonprofit, so we might try to get some funding for some things. I got a book coming out this year. We have a Discord now. I don't know if how you can search that, but if you're on Discord, please come through the Discord. It's very baby and tiny. Like it just started. I just set it up and I'm just starting to bring people there. So if you know something about Discord, help me out. Nat, I see you. I'm trying to build a community and an ecosystem of folks. So it's not just me, it's all y'all, because we're a community now. And that's my resolution this year. So we'll build that up. That's it. Other than that, I will see y'all next week. No one's answered my interview requests yet, but I got like 5 out there. People just coming off the holidays. We're gonna have some great. If you looked at my 24 recap, we had some great people on last year. So if you're just checking this out and you want to know the caliber of stuff that we do, go back and check the 2024 recap and realize that we talk to some of the most brilliant people in the world. I know you do, Nat. I know you live on Discord. I dabble, so I'm in and out, but I really want to, give me your 2 cents. Like, let me know, set up right, too much, too little. I think it's good. I want to make sure that, I don't know how to bring people there. I think we could have some good conversations there that are about like all this stuff. So yeah, if you're not on Discord, click the link and just come on for the first time. It's okay. We'll take newbies. And we're going to try to build something there. I'm trying to build some partnerships in there too, Nat, like some linkage so that, there's some, like a low key, not network, but you know what I mean? Like friends of, and so it could be a cool thing. So thank you. I love you. Other than that, y'all, we out. We're going to, yeah, definitely near. Yeah. Okay. Nat, good point. Good point. Okay. I made a note. All right. So, by the way, Baby Girl Faces came home with all A's. So your girl's doing great. I know you see her at the beginning of the show. I'm going to employ her to do a few more things. You guys see, we haven't seen Baby Girl Faces in a long time. It's been school but she came home with all A's. So to the friends and fans of Baby Girl Faces, that's what's up. Anyway, I'm out of here, y'all. I could talk to y'all all night long. Thanks for watching me. This was a good show. We had a good turnout. Thumbs up, subscribe, notifications, and on your way out, just share it and drop it on your feeds and tell people, yo, saw something really cool tonight. Maybe I should check it out. Other than that, you know where to find me. Hit me anytime, any place. #Janet Jackson, and we'll talk. I got some things I'm working on, so more to talk about. We'll be back next week. I don't know what I'm coming back with. Maybe a guest. By next week, I should have a guest. And again, recommend me that guests. Ms. Parker, I'd love to have you on, talk about what you do. Yeah, so Nat, all y'all. Shouts to I guess he's gone because we haven't heard from him in a while. Andrew Wang, Jamie Hernandez, thanks for checking in. I appreciate you. Jamie, is it Jamie or Jaime? Like I'm not like I'm serious because like I don't know. Charlotte Michelle left, but she's the greatest. Shouts to our friends at Hip-Hop Ed. She's down with them. I appreciate your appreciation. And that's about it. I'm just waiting for Jamie Jaime to tell me how to pronounce his name. Or is it Jamie? Is it? I don't know. Like, I'm just trying to get it right. My brother-in-law is Jaime, but we call him Jamie. But he's Jaime, but we call him Jamie. Like he calls himself Jamie, but it's Jaime. We call him Jamie. We also call him something totally different, which is like not his name, which is a funny story. But anyway, so hey, it's 11:11. Make a wish on the East Coast. Anyway, that's it. I'm out. Right? Jaime's not gonna tell me. Jamie's not gonna tell me. I'm just gonna call you Hernandez from now on until you tell me. All right, I'm out. We'll be back. If you just missed it, rewind it. Oh, and by next one, I was almost working on it today. I almost had it. Remember, I keep talking about I don't have an outro for the show. This is why this lingers for so long, because I don't have any way of saying bye, and it's ridiculous. I'm making an outro so that when I leave, like my intro is fabulous. If you ever seen my intro's fabulous. I made the intro, I edited it, I made the theme song. Do y'all know that? I made the theme song, I produced that, like I made that. So I did all that, but I don't have an outro. So that's why this thing just like carries on until I just be like bye and I'm out. So I'm working on an outro. So hopefully by next show I'll have an outro. So I'm working on things. I have another view that I didn't show y'all today. I did for a second that when we have a caller or like a guest, but I could take impromptu guests, not just like, I got so many things. Anyway, so lots going on. Yeah, I'm glad y'all here with me. So thanks for tuning in and turning up, and I'll have an outro next time, but I don't really have an outro right now. So all I'll do is, yeah, baby girl Faces, she did good. She did good. But by the way, first and second quarter. Thank you very much. All A's and all A's. So she's on last year she was all A's and B's, and now she's all A's. So we're on the right track. She's doing good. She's brilliant and beautiful. And yeah. Jaime. Okay, good. Jaime, there you go. I'm on a delay. The delay is long here. So Jaime, good to know. And that's what I'll refer to you as, sir. So thank you for checking in. Like I say, my brother-in-law is Jaime, so that's what's up. All right, I'm out. Goodbye. Happy New Year to y'all. And let's keep those hip-hop resolutions. I want everyone to think about what, James, that's cool too, but, I just wanted to be, proper. Hip-hop resolutions. Remember, in the words of the late, great John F. Kennedy, who once said, now, y'all saw the real speech, but behind the scenes, y'all don't know this. This is like the lost tapes. He actually was talking to his cabinet, and he says, ask not what hip-hop can do for you, but ask what you can do for hip-hop. He actually said that. It was crazy. I got the recordings. So this year, 2025, what I'm going to be putting out there, and you'll see me write a piece about it, and don't take my idea, you heathens. Ask not what hip-hop can do for you. Ask what you can do for hip-hop. That's our resolution for this year. What can we do to help the culture that's given us so much? We can complain, we can talk shit, we can, lament, but there's also a lot we can do. And if you don't know what to do, maybe you're not an educator and can't bring hip-hop into a classroom. Maybe just a person, a hip-hop fan, a hip-hop connoisseur, and you're disgusted and you're tormented by the direction of the culture. You're in the right place. We will, by the time you're done listening to a few of these shows, you will have figured out a way that you can help hip-hop, help humanity. So it's ask not what hip-hop can do for you. It's ask what you can do for hip-hop in 2025. And if you rock with me, we'll figure that out together. So thank you once again to Manny Faces.
Manny Faces. You sick for this one.
I'll see you next week. Peace and love.